Welcome to another White Line Athletics video. I'm here with Brian. Today we're going to use the foam roller to target some of the larger muscle groups that cross the shoulder, namely the lats on the back side and then the pecs coming across the front to the shoulder. And then we're going to get a little bit more specific, a little bit deeper with lacrosse ball, and we're going to get into some of the external rotator cuff muscles, which can often get a lot of trigger points, adhesions, and be pretty sensitive. So just be careful when you go on these, go nice and slow, find those areas that need a little bit of tension, hang out for 30 seconds to a minute, and then move on after it's been released a little bit, and hopefully we get a little bit of relief at that shoulder, and maybe some increased mobility as well. All right, so I'm going to hand the roller off to Brian. He's going to get set up on the lats first. So he's going to get the roller placed pretty much right where the lat runs up towards the armpit. So it's going to be just beneath the shoulder and on the lat. So here we go. So right now Brian is pretty much almost perfectly sideways. So he's going to get sort of the more anterior front aspect of the lat. And that's a good place to work. Over time, he can start to roll back slightly. You see him tilting back to a 45-degree angle. And that's going to get deeper into the lat or more towards the back side of the lat. All right, so he's working around trying to find a nice spot that has a little bit of tension, needs a little bit of work. He's going to hang out there for a little bit of time. You can also play around with moving that arm. Because the lat does cross the shoulder and it affects shoulder extension and adduction and internal rotation. As he moves his arm around in space, that's going to start pulling the fibers of the lat across the roller, getting a little bit more of that massage sort of effect through the area. How's that feel, Brian? Good. Good. He can work this roller all the way down down the back side. The lats do insert way down the spine and insert onto the fascia just above the pelvis. So we have a large muscle group, a lot of area that we can play around with for rolling here. But again, as he moves through, it's going to be nice and slow and controlled. All right, after we spent a couple minutes working on that side, working to the other side as well, and then we're going to go visit the pecs on the front side of the body. All right, so Brian's going to work on foam rolling his pec major muscle at this point. So what he's going to do, maybe let's get the left side done there, Brian, so we can see a bit better. So he's going to lie down with his chest or his pec on the foam roller. And we can play around with different angles of the foam roller because the pec muscle is a fan-shaped muscle. Some fibers run a bit more up and down or vertically. Some fibers run a little bit more horizontally out towards the shoulder. So right now he's in a good position to work on some of those clavicular fibers or the ones that run up and down. Same thing we do with any other muscle group for foam rolling. We're going to take our time, go nice and slow, wait till we find an area that needs a little bit of attention, and then hang out in that spot, and hopefully that muscle starts to release. So we start to break down some of those adhesions or release some of those trigger points. Again, the pec major does cross the shoulder, and so as Brian rotates through the arm or moves the arm around, that will affect what's happening beneath or between the foam roller and his pec muscle. So once he finds a sweet spot, he can hang out and get some finer movements between the foam roller and that tissue. Once that feels like it's been released, then we move on. So he's going to roll a little bit further down the pec, or he could start rolling towards the sternum or the midpoint of his chest. And as we tackle those sternal fibers, we might want to change the orientation of the foam roller. So I'm going to just guide that for Brian. So he's going to roll on the foam roller with the foam roller pretty much parallel to his body or his spine. And now as he rolls across horizontally, that's in a better line to affect those fibers on the sternal attachment on the sternum. Again, still playing around with moving the arm and finding those spots that need a little bit of attention. And we have our pec foam roll. All right, so we're going to go into rolling out the external rotators in the rotator cuff of the shoulder. So Brian's going to be working on his right rotator cuff. Just a quick talk on anatomy. The rotator cuff is a series of 4 to 5 muscles, depending on how you qualify them, that surround the shoulder joints that provide a lot of stability through the shoulder. And they're responsible for either externally rotating the shoulder or internally rotating the shoulder or providing stability as our larger muscle groups do greater or grosser movement patterns. So we're going to work on the external rotators today. Pretty much what Brian's going to do is he's going to get the ball sitting right on his scapula or his shoulder blade, because that's where a lot of the external rotators lie. They lie right on the back side of the scapula. So right here is where we're going to get the ball, in this area. Okay, so Brian's going to get the ball on the floor and he's going to play around until he finds that spot. His body will probably be around 45 degrees to get a proper angle on the ball. As with any other foam rolling approach, we will want to mitigate how much weight is being transferred into that ball by using the free arm and the legs. So we can use those, the feet or that extra arm to lift some of the body weight off if it's a little too intense. All right, you got that spot there, Brian, or found a spot? Okay, so because we are trying to target the external rotators, again, we can add some of that shoulder rotation in order to increase the intensity or allow us to get a little bit deeper. So as Brian externally rotates here, he's starting to activate those muscles a little bit. It's also going to shorten them and tighten them up. And so that's going to be a fairly intense position if he's on a spot that needs a lot of attention. As he internally rotates the shoulder, that's starting to lengthen the rotator cuff, and you may not be able to get as deep that way, but it's going to be a different sensation. So it's a little bit of playing around to find what is feeling good or what needs the attention. Once he's worked on that spot, he's going to move around maybe an inch up, an inch down, an inch left, an inch right, somewhere along that shoulder blade to find another spot to work on. He can also move the ball further down towards his shoulder, so off the shoulder blade or scapula and into just sort of the meat area beneath the shoulder. You have the lats that cross into there as well as a lot of the rotator cuff muscles, and so there's a lot going on in there, usually a fairly tender spot, so just be careful when you first get in there. But again, just explore through the body and find those areas that need some attention. How's that feel, Brian?
Good.
Well, Brian doesn't want to move, but we got to get going. So we'll catch you in the next video. Also check out our foam rolling video, which is very similar to this one for the rhomboids and mid-traps. Pretty much the same style, just replacing the ball a little bit closer towards the spine.